or two. Here we are live. Hello. I'll give people a minute or two to join. So you see normally when I just kind of ramble on, so don't mind me, Emily. The good thing is people know it's informal, so it doesn't matter what I say. I hope everybody's well. Back to standard English weather down here in Kent. What's the weather like there, Emily?
Do you know, it was actually really sunny this morning, but it looks a bit cloudy now, so that didn't last very long. I
didn't have any sun this morning, so back to it. Go jump on after this before I go out. Sucks, doesn't it? Anyway, I'll get started because obviously we are recording this as well and we go on YouTube, so you don't need me to ramble too much. Hello. If you are here, please say hello to us so it doesn't feel like we're talking to ourselves. Emily, you should see that on the right hand side. But it's good to have you here. I'm looking forward to this one. Looking forward to hearing about Carrington West, Emily, what she's doing and what they're doing to do such a great job within looking after their people. So before we start, we'll do some introductions. I'll go first just to get me out of the way, and then it will be focused towards you, Emily. So my name's Rich, and if you don't know me, I am the founder and director of Employees Health, which is a workplace wellbeing and performance company. We help businesses create and support wellbeing strategies. We also help their individuals and educate them in how they can look after themselves and take their wellbeing and performance to the next level. That's me out of the way. That's the boring kind of plug bit done. Now for the interesting bit.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. I basically sit here and smile whilst you talk and give me all the advice and tell people how to run such an amazing business. So no pressure.
So my name's Emily. I'm the HR manager here at Carrington West. So Carrington West are a technical recruitment agency. We work across the built environment sectors, infrastructure across the UK. We're based in Portsmouth. We have 100 employees now. We've been around 12 years. So we've grown quite quickly in those 12 years. And I think we'll come on to it later, but we're in an IIP Platinum Accredited business. And last year we won the UK Employer of the Year in our sort of company size in the Platinum category as well.
Woo! Thank you. Nice introduction. Probably smoother than my one. Hi, Andy. Good to have you here. So let's dive into that in a little bit more detail. So, as you said, you're the HR manager at Carrington West. Tell me a bit more about what that involves for you on a day-to-day.
Yeah, of course. So I joined the business nearly 4 years ago as a standalone HR advisor. So the role's kind of grown since then. I now have a HR administrator that works with me, and I've also got a talent acquisition partner actually joining me next week as well. So built a little team around me now. But we look after all things people for the business. So that's everything from recruitment, selection, onboarding, all the way through engagement, well-being, anything culture and people related, really. The whole people part kind of sits with us, and that's really sort of varied. At the moment, we've got a big focus on recruitment, so a lot of my time is at the moment spent doing recruitment. So talent attraction campaigns, reaching out to the universities, working closely with them, as well as sort of talking to people, telling them about Carrington West and kind of what it can offer them in their career. We've got a lot of sort of graduates at the moment coming through, so a big push on graduate recruitment.
Yeah, wicked. And doing loads of these as well. I'm seeing you're doing more and more talks to kind of showcase the amazing job you're doing.
Yeah, definitely trying to do it a bit more. It's definitely out of my comfort zone, but pushing myself to do it. So I think we've got lots of great things to share, and hopefully people listening and watching can kind of take something away that's useful for them too.
Yeah, I definitely think there will be from what you're doing. It sounds like you're doing some great bits. So, yeah, 100%. I'm going to dive into you a little bit more. Obviously, HR manager, but before that, you qualified. You got a degree in psychology.
Yes.
You've got a level 7.
Yeah, so I've got a level 7 postgraduate diploma in human resource management. So I did that through the University of Portsmouth. That's CIPD accredited. And then a couple of years ago, I topped that up to the full MSc in human resource management. And then actually just last month, I think it was now, I became chartered through the CIPD as well.
Buzzers. All right, check you out. And how have you found that help? How have you found that helpful? The psychological bit, I think, is really powerful, in regards to being a people person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think the psychology degree, you have a real understanding of people, the way their mind works, but also just that sort of just people as a whole, and how, and that has been really helpful for me. I did quite a big sort of research. I did my dissertation around goal setting, and the impact of that on wellbeing. Actually, I mean, it was a while ago now, so I can't remember the exact ins and outs, but I've always had that sort of fascination in people, their wellbeing, and the way the mind works.
I'm the same as you. I love it. It's interesting to see how goal setting has that power or motivation, which then leads to that well-being, activity, and action, right?
Yeah, massively. It has a huge impact. I obviously was, my research was on students, and goal setting around sort of the grades they were aiming for in their exams, and then how that impacted their wellbeing, whether they hit it, didn't hit it, and that kind of thing. So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, there was. And so obviously you're, as you said, Carrington West is a recruitment company. There's obviously their own challenges. It brings its own challenges within a recruitment company. What kind of challenges do you face and deal with in your role?
So I think a big challenge, and it's one that I've kind of consistently seen throughout my career, is hiring people into recruitment. It's really competitive. There's huge amounts of recruitment companies. They're all doing great things. So yeah, it is very competitive. Recruitment's becoming more of a career of choice. I think a few years ago, quite often people would say they fell into recruitment. That was kind of quite often the thing. But now you speak to graduates who, they want a career in recruitment. They've been told about it at uni. They've seen it around. So we sponsor the sports teams at Portsmouth University. So they know who we are. They know what we do, and they want a career in it. So that we're all competing for the same people. So that is really challenging to find. The kind of the war on talent, I suppose, is what people call it, isn't it? But also recruitment, it is a hard role. It's challenging. It's fast paced. There's a lot going on, and it's about making sure that people are aware of that, and that we're providing that support, training, guidance that they need, which I think is something that we do very well here. But it's definitely still a challenge, and it's a sort of a moving challenge. We've seen graduates now coming, people that have been affected by COVID, that they're kind of different challenges than perhaps we had before then. So it's definitely, it's not like a thing that we can tick off and say, that challenge is overcome. It's kind of like a moving challenge.
Yeah, and I also think now, both outside of COVID, the hiring process has become very much an employee-driven process more than an employer-driven. And we want to give you this job, whereas employers or potential employees are choosing where they want to go and what job they want to have and how their work looks.
Yeah, quite often you see like good graduates will have sort of 2-3 offers on the table. So that's how we can differentiate ourselves against those offers, essentially. And they're not necessarily always just looking at recruitment as well. They might be looking at other different types of sales roles. So yeah, it is competitive, and it's about how we can make ourselves kind of stand out against those other offers that they've got.
Yeah, wicked. And I presume we're going to discuss all of this in depth in a bit more detail.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into the first bit I want to talk to you really about, and this kind of clings onto the title we've created. We've titled this this podcast, and that's your retention. Your retention is pretty decent. Let's say it's pretty amazing how you've got a 96% retention rate. The average is, I think it was 74. No, 30. 60.
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it is. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I know the attrition rate, which is the other way around, it's 43% on average in recruitment. And so the fact that you've only got you're only losing 7% is outstanding. So it's 36% better than the market the industry standard. So it'd be really interesting to know why you think that is the case, what you're doing to make sure that is the case, and give some advice for people to listen to, really, and hear and see it and make some notes on.
Yeah, so I guess the big thing, and I'd say the sort of the main thing that then sort of threads into everything we do is that we put people first. We very much class ourselves as a people first organisation. So every decision that we're making, every initiative that we're rolling out, every strategy that we create is always thought about with our people in mind first. Everything else will come afterwards, because if we look after our people, then everything else will naturally follow. So we actually have like a bit of a flywheel, we call it, where if we invest into our people, their learning, their development, their engagement, their well-being, then that will lead into them being successful, them looking after our clients and looking after our candidates, will increase our sales, we can invest more into our people. And it kind of just, the more that we do it, the faster that flywheel spins. Our MD describes it a lot better than I do. But that's the general idea of it, is that, yeah, the more that we put into our people, the more success we're going to have, the more success they're going to have. And it kind of just keeps kind of snowballing from there, really. So yeah, the general consensus is putting your people first. But I guess the nitty gritty of that is it's in all areas. So a big thing that we do a lot, which I think really helps with our retention and things like our engagement scores, is that we constantly ask for feedback from our employees. Whether that's, we've got an engagement tool, which is like a pulse survey. So people are getting questions daily, so they have a daily opportunity to give us that feedback. There's also an anonymous sort of comment feature on there, so people can just pop their ideas in there. But we'll also people run one-to-one meetings every week, weekly team meetings, and in each of those we're asking for ideas, we're asking for feedback, as well as sort of more formal settings too. So like our quarterly reviews, there's always a big part of that is asking for feedback, whether that's on management, whether that's on social events that we do, initiatives that we run, training, anything like that. We always ask sort of formally for that feedback. And then also after events, after big training sessions we've run, we'll ask for specific feedback for that event or that training. And then we always use that to shape things moving forward. So a big thing is asking for feedback, but actually using it and sort of responding to it, which I think has been really key, because people, if they're sharing their opinions, they want to know that you're listening, so they need to feel heard, feel valued, and I think that in turn helps people sort of engage more with our workplace, and therefore the retention is high.
There's loads in there. I've made tons of notes, and I think the big title of people first is kind of what leads it all, right? And kind of how you measure that, and the different elements of people as well will play this big role. What you kind of led to it, but you didn't really say it out loud. You said you are measuring. Do you use like just a survey tool, or do you have like a platform or?
So we have a platform which it's a pulse survey. So it sends out one question a day. They store up to, I think, 2 weeks worth of questions. So not everybody's going to log in every day. We're realistic with that. I know not everyone's going to log in every day, but if they can log in once a week, once every 2 weeks, we can be a bit more on the ball with feedback. But yeah, and then that generates us a score on a weekly basis. So every week we get that new score, and I have that dashboard open all day, every day that I'm working, because all the comments come through live. So anything like that, so if someone pops a comment in there, I can respond to it straight away. And we get like a engagement score, if you like, over the kind of, it measures 24 pillars of engagement, some of those being well-being, financial well-being. So we get the overall score, but then we get the scores for each pillar as well, and then we also get the scores by team too. So we can really dissect the data and use that to help drive our efforts sort of week to week, quarter to quarter, but also across the year as well. So we can identify where our areas of development are, and then we can really sort of focus in on that.
Yeah, wicked. Is that an internal created pulse survey, or have you? Is that with somebody who you're using for that?
Yeah, no. So we use a tool called Water. So they're the platform that we use. So it's not something that we've created ourselves.
No, cool. So yeah, just if I'd give them a shout out as such, just so if people want that idea. I actually have nothing to do with Water. I've never met the guy, so I might. That's pretty cool. And the fact, as you said, it measures tons. How many different areas?
24 pillars of engagement.
24 pillars of engagement. And do you have areas where you think you're stronger at? Some areas where you think you could do better at?
Yeah, absolutely. We do perform generally very well. So our engagement score sits around 90%. Some weeks it will drop down to like 88 or something like that. Some weeks it will bump up to 92, but generally it's around 90%. But yeah, we can quite clearly see where there's maybe areas for us to improve. So at the moment, an area that's come up as a sort of an improvement for us is around collaboration. And again, it's not a low score. It's it's in the 80s, so it's still very good. But we've just expanded our offices. So we're in the same office now, but we've sort of expanded it almost a third bigger than it was. So that means that where we were all crammed into one space before, we're now much more spread out. So I kind of expected that might be the case, because now if you're sat one corner of the office, you might not speak to somebody on the other side. So it's something that we're aware of and are working on to kind of pull people to get back together again, but that was something that we had anticipated happening. So yeah, we're looking at like team building activities that we can do, and ways to sort of build that collaboration across the business, sort of build it stronger. As we get bigger, what's naturally going to happen. But yeah, like I said, as we spread ourselves out across the new office, it was more than likely going to have an impact on that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And to have an 80% is still pretty decent as well.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, it's definitely good, and the tool actually does benchmark for you as well, and it's still above sort of industry benchmark. So yeah, it's definitely not sort of really negative thing for us, but it is lower than our other things, so that's an area for us to improve.
Yeah, for sure. And then when we dive in, I'll probably dive into that a little bit more. We will dive into that a little bit more probably when we get to the wellbeing strategy part of this, and
yeah, of course.
And then kind of how you do that. But in regards to kind of people first and getting feedback and measuring, you said the big part is then obviously utilizing that information and then sharing it. So that requires a communication process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then how often are you communicating and sharing your kind of?
Yeah, so we use sort of different multiple channels of communication. So we, so actually HR and marketing sit on the same bank of desks. So they're our sort of communication, they're the geniuses on all of that stuff. So we work with them very closely to make sure that we're communicating the right messages in the right places and the right number of times, if that makes sense. So yeah, we've got a whole different variety of ways of communicating. So just a few examples. So every month we have we call them the Excellence Awards. So they are an opportunity, the whole company sort of all gather around. One of the directors will stand up and sort of give a company update on performance, like new starters, promotions, all that stuff, as well as people update. So if we have asked for feedback and we've got something to share, or if we're introducing something new, then we can share it there, because that's it's a great opportunity. Everyone's there, and we can deliver it in person. So yeah, that's one of the ways that we communicate anything new, any changes. We have, pardon?
That's really cool. That's a bit different. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, we give out awards in that session as well, obviously, the Excellence Awards. So we give out awards for, there's a number of different sales awards around things like most interviews, most calls, that kind of thing. But then we also have our special mention awards, and they are peer-to-peer nominations based on our values. So if somebody in the business has done something over and above, and you really feel like it's really sort of lies within one of our company values, and you can nominate somebody for an award and they get that sort of recognition, they get a voucher for it, based on that sort of standard public pat on the back, if you like, recognition for whatever it is they've done above and beyond. So yeah, that's one way that we would communicate. We've also got notice boards in our kitchen. So our kitchen is quite a communal area. It's very busy in there. So we've got sort of paper notice boards, very old school, but we also have TV screens that have kind of like a rotating presentation on them, so we can put updates and news on there. And then we've also got a company intranet, which we can completely customize it and create ourselves. So any sort of like big news we can put on the homepage. And we also, our marketing team send around a weekly roundup, which has got links to areas on that hub to sort of direct people onto there to go and read about things in a bit more detail. But headline news would go on that email, and that's sent around to all staff every Friday. And then we also will just send around all staff emails as and when needed. So if I've input some questions onto Water. So at the moment, for example, we have put some questions actually in around wellbeing, funnily enough. So I can send an email around and say, can you all log into Water and make sure you're answering these questions? We want to make some improvements. We want your help to create them because we need to make sure that we're delivering what you're after. And we've done that for numerous different things. We do it for employee benefits, things like flexible working, dress code, all that sort of stuff. We'll send out an email and ask for people's feedback and ideas. So that's just a sort of few ways. And obviously just through our management team, senior leadership team as well, they can obviously feedback or pass on messages to their teams at that sort of level as well. So it depends on what it is that we're communicating as to how best to do it. Like I said, we work with marketing who kind of recommend the best way to deliver those updates, news, feedback.
Yeah, no, it's wicked. And I think it's what I think you're doing really is building this really nice picture and painting of what a good workplace can look like. We're going to dive into it a little bit more before we begin to kind of ask some of the questions about hows, I guess, and what we think we needs to be in there is kind of the backbone of all of this as well. But you obviously last year. Well, when did you gain the Platinum Award from Investors in People?
Platinum Accreditation was August 2021, and then the award was last year in November.
Yeah, and then also won the Employee Engagement Award as well.
Employee Engagement as well, yeah, that we won that last year.
Yeah, so that's that's 3 things within the last kind of 2 years since you've been there.
We've won awards for training as well with other awards as well. But yeah, those are the IIP ones.
Okay, well, you've won some. So could list some of the other cool awards you've won then.
So we won the IIP Learning and Development Award for 2020 and 2021 as well. So we won those back to back. We'll let somebody else have it last year though. And then we won the Global Recruiter Award for Best In-House Training. We also won, we have some local awards here, so they're called the New Business News Excellence Awards, I think off the top of my head. But we won their Best Training Programme Award as well. And then some of our consultants have won the Best Consultant Awards for their industries and as well. So yeah, we've won quite a few awards. I think it was 8 last year.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So obviously, as I said, I think I'm hoping that this bit won't kind of overlap too much, but what are you doing? What do you have to do to win those and to get to a position where you are then a Platinum Award, a Platinum accredited business? What is it you have to really do and focus on?
So if I go back to the accreditation, I don't know how much people know about IIP, Investors in People, and that kind of accreditation process, but it's you do it on a sort of 2-3 yearly basis. Every 3 years you get re-accredited or reassessed. The assessment is so it's a survey to all staff around all your people practices. So that goes to everybody, and then off the back of that, they conduct interviews with a select amount of staff. So for us, we had 2 days of back-to-back interviews, and then also I put together a huge bit of work around all the things that we do, sort of provide evidence of all the things that we do. So whether that's policies, whether that's our data, examples of things, testimonials, all that sort of stuff. So it's quite a sort of thorough process. It lasts, the survey's out for sort of around a month, then you have the days of interviews, and then your assessor writes up a big report, and then it goes to a board to be assessed. And you're assessed against 9 different indicators in the Investors in People framework, and you can be scored at different levels within that. To be Platinum, you had to score high achieving across 7 of those 9 indicators. But within each indicator, there's then 3 other sort of areas that you've got to meet high performing as well. So it is really challenging. It's not something you can blag in any way at all. They really dive into everything that you do, and through your employees as well. So we actually got high performing on all nine indicators, which was amazing. Which was a real big achievement for everybody here. So for us, it was really about understanding. So they're very much a people first organisation too. Their title is make work better, which is also something we're very keen to do as well. So our values and our sort of I guess, our vision very much align closely with investors in people. So we use a lot of their framework to ensure that we're doing the best that we can do, making sure that we're kind of adhering to best practice. So I think a big thing for investors and people is the feedback, and then actually actioning the feedback. So you get a sort of feedback report from investors and people as well. Mm-hmm. Off the back of our gold accreditation, they gave us a report, they gave us areas to work on. So obviously we actioned all of that and made sure it was really embedded into our culture. That's a sort of a big part of it as well, is making sure that your practices are embedded. You're not just saying you're doing it, but you're actually doing it, and that employees feel that is the case too. So yeah, it's really about embedding changes, listening to feedback, and taking action on it as well. So that's a kind of very basic overview of what you need to do for investors in people. And then in terms of the award, so for the Employer of the Year awards, those are all based on the accreditation reports. So we were automatically put forward for it based on the fact that we'd gone through an accreditation. So anyone in 2021 who'd gone through an accreditation and been accredited would have been put forward for the relevant awards 2022. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we were automatically put forward for it just on our report, if that makes sense, on our accreditation report. And then we were shortlisted, and again, we didn't have any say in it. We didn't put anything forward for it. It was just based on the results of our assessment. So yeah, it just means that we're the best, basically.
Basically.
Yeah.
But from what you're saying, the things which are really kind of drying up, kind of standing out, popping out from the first bit about your retention numbers. Yeah, Andy, yeah, correct. You're always collecting awards, but you do that more than you do your actual job. But it's very much about a process and a process of running a business. It's about, kind of, as you said, your monthly catch-ups, your weekly one-to-ones, your processing, getting feedback and speaking to your people, making sure that they're first. And that isn't things to do with well-being. That's just how businesses should be run, and having that process and structure in place. What does, apart from the IOP, which has happened over the last kind of couple of years, is there anything that your CEOs, directors, and people at the top have kind of taken as a tool to do that, or is it something they kind of maybe failed at to start with, and then when actually we need to make a change here?
No, I think they've always, so the reason they set up the business because they wanted to do recruitment better. So they had this, I guess the why for the business, and the reason that we're here, and this, the why that still drives us now, is to be better in every way, every day. So that's why they wanted to make Carrington West, and it's still the why that we keep trying to improve now. And the reason that we have that sort of culture of continuous improvement is that, yeah, we just want to do things right and do things, yeah, better, baby, essentially. So that's kind of the whole driver for everything that we do, and that's, yeah, like from the top down. Our whole SLT are, they firmly believe in that. They're firmly people first as well. That's not like a HR thing. That is a business thing.
I think that's important as well. I'm going to lead into that in a second. My last question on the kind of investors and people stuff is why is this important to you? Why is having that investors and people accreditation, awards, all that kind of stuff, why is that important to you?
Mm-hmm. So like I said, and I've said many times, we're a people first business. We want to do the best we can. So initially the business signed up to investors in people. I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was 2014. It was before I joined, and that was, that on that basis that they wanted to be better, and that provided a great framework for them. Without a HR department, it provided that support and guidance that they needed at the time. But for now, we know that we do things well. We know that we're trying to be better, and by working with people like investors and people and winning these awards, it kind of just demonstrates that we are doing the right things. It just shows us that we obviously think we're great, but by getting that kind of recognition, it just shows that we are doing the right thing. And actually, it's a massive thing for attracting staff. So many people mention it when I speak to them on the phone, when they apply. Things like Glassdoor, Indeed, they read the reviews. They really want to know what it's like to actually work here, and seeing something like investors in people and those 5-star reviews, they all really help to kind of attract people. Like I said at the beginning of the call, that's a big thing for us, is that differentiator, and those things are all big differentiators for us as well. So it's kind of twofold really.
Yeah, wicked. I was kind of hoping you would go down that line. I was leading with that being the answer. But yeah, it does makes you stand out. It showcases that you do put your people first, which is important.
Yeah,
people can see that when you're looking to, and you get the best talent because of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to move on. So obviously, you kind of mentioned it just a second ago, and you kind of mentioned the term a couple of times, the word culture.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something within my industry we talk about all the time, and potentially being one of the most important things. But it's not easy to create or then to fix.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you've obviously created this and not had to fix it. But I'd like to know a little bit more about what it is. What's the word I've got? How much focus you put on it is probably the first question, and then what you do to keep it.
So yeah, it's a big focus. That's one of the reasons that we ask for feedback every single day. We want to maintain and grow our culture. We're a fast-growing business. A big risk for us is that we'll lose our culture, and we're very aware of that. And it's very much threaded through all of our strategies, is to make sure that we are focusing on keeping our culture. And I think feedback is the only real way that you can measure that. Obviously, we can look at things like engagement scores, but actually, it's the conversational feedback, the comments that people give us. That's how we can really make sure that we still have that kind of culture. But basically everything we do is all about building the culture here. I'll talk about people first. You could call it culture first. It's very much, they're part and parcel. They kind of go hand in hand, in my opinion anyway.
I mean, I completely agree with both kind of parts you just said there. I think you can clearly see from the outside looking in that the culture and your people are your number one thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's super important, and I'm glad that you have it. And it is hard. What would you say is probably the number one thing, or the top kind of couple of bits which you put down to having the biggest impact on your culture?
I think hiring the right people, absolutely. If you've got a really good team who, have a great culture, they're, very supportive, collaborative, highly performing, highly engaged. If you hire someone who just doesn't fit into that can completely ruin that in a very short period of time.
So before you go on to any more bits kind of to focus on, how do you do that?
So we interview a lot around our values. So that's something that we use, making sure that people are in line with our values. Competency-based questioning as well. So making sure that, providing situations and working out how that person would act in that situation, if it's in line with our values, in line with how we do things here. And then we also use a psychometric tool as well, which looks at those sort of personality traits as well. We don't use that as like a decision maker. It's something that we use as an interview tool as well. So we can make sure that we're interviewing for values, vision, mission, culture. That's all part of the interview process.
Yeah, wicked. So carry on. So I interrupted. Do you think that's the most important part about just kind of hiring the right people, or is there anything else that you think?
I don't think there's any sort of one thing that's the most important part. I think it's all of it. But for me, that's something that's really important, is making sure you're hiring the right people. I'm sure we've all been in workplaces where we've seen someone come in and I think the term for it is an internal terrorist. You see them come in and just absolutely ruin all the hard work that you've put into something. So that is something that I think is important to be aware of, making sure that you're hiring the right kind of people. That, like I said, I don't think there's one thing. It's all of it. It all links together.
For sure. Yeah, cool. So finally, maybe not finally, penultimately, I want to talk to you about wellbeing strategy. Mm-hmm. Just because I'm a wellbeing business and this is called the Wellbeing Chat. You have so much good stuff focused in here on how the company runs, what the company does to retain good talent, how they win awards. But underneath all that, or somewhere within that, you must have a strategy. Talk to me about strategy, how you focus, what you focus on, what you do, we obviously spoke before we did this, so I know some of this cool stuff, and I know actually you do this at a really kind of good cost to the business as well. So just dive into your wellbeing strategy for me.
Yeah, so our wellbeing strategy has 4 pillars. So we focus on mental health, physical health, social health, and financial health, or financial wellbeing, social wellbeing, whatever terminology you want to use. So those are our sort of 4 focused areas. So our strategy is that we make sure that we give enough sort of attention, I guess, to each part of those. Not one of those things is more important than the other. Again, they link together. If you've got good wellbeing in one of those areas, you're probably going to have good wellbeing in all 4. So that's how we kind of drive our strategy, if you like, and then we build out initiatives in each of those 4 areas. So if I to start with physical, for example, so something that we provide all our employees from day one is Vitality private medical insurance. And what's different about Vitality, and the reason we went with Vitality, is that they take that sort of proactive, preventative approach to wellbeing, which is the same approach we're taking. So that's what it's very much aligned to that. So people not familiar with Vitality, you can link up like an Apple Watch or whatever fitness tracker you have. You can earn points for that. So with the points, you can get like cinema tickets. You can actually get a free Apple Watch. They do things like 50% off trainers. There's so many different sort of wellbeing discounts through the portal that they have, and they have we have the sort of fully comprehensive cover as well. So all our employees have that from day one, and that's anybody from an apprentice to a director. There's no sort of differentiation around what level of cover you have. Everyone's health is just as important as each other's. So that's something that we do physical health wise. We also partner with our local Pure Gym, so they're just down the road, and they provide us with 2 fitness classes every week, and they do that free of charge. So they do a spinning class for us and a yoga class as well. So we started with the spinning class about a year ago now, kind of monitored attendance to that, asked for feedback. People asked for a different kind of class too. So yoga came up a lot, spoke to the gym. They're more than happy to do that in their other studios. So kind of building relationships, I guess, in the community has helped us to gain that. They also have come in and sort of run health checks for us as well, which was great. But yeah, and I kind of monitor the attendance to those classes as well, just to make sure that they're sort of being well attended, seek feedback on those, of course. So yeah, those are a couple of bits we do. An example of kind of, I guess, an initiative that we also do for physical health. This month, we're doing a Strava challenge. But we're recruiters, majority, we're competitive, so it's competition, of course. So we're raising money for charity as well, raising money for our local Mind branch, but we're also running it as like a team-based competition. So basically each team has to get as many miles as possible, and then it's we're working it out as an average per head in the team so that we can make it fair, because some teams are bigger than others. And yes, people are very competitive. It's great seeing so many people are out going for a walk at lunch now. People genuinely seem to they're like I said, they're competitive. They're going out for walking 20 miles each weekend just to try and beat another team. So yeah, that's been a really good way of getting people more active. We did it last year as well, but we didn't do it as a competition last year. We just did it as people pledged their mileage, and we tried to hit a certain number of mileage as a business. But we decided, or we had some feedback actually, that they wanted to do it as a competition. So this year we've run it as a competition, so providing like weekly updates, and you can see on Strava as well. Obviously, we're in like a Carrington West group, and we can all see each other's activities. So yeah, that's worked really well. And actually, I mentioned that we've running some feedback at the moment on wellbeing, and someone's already asked if we can do this on a monthly basis, have it as like a running competition. So that's something that they're going to look into sort of the feasibility of as well. So that's been really sort of, well engaged with, if you like. Other things, so mental health. So we've got 6 mental health first aiders now, in 100, so that's a pretty good ratio of those. But we also have, so as part of Vitality, we've got the full mental health cover as well, and it also is provided on a medical history disregarded basis. So something that we were finding before with other providers or other cover that we had was that if somebody had sought treatment for mental health before, they weren't then covered by private medical. So we changed our cover to make sure that everybody had access to all of it. There's also an EAP in there as well. And then we also run training for our managers and senior leadership team as well. So actually this week we've got Andy coming in to deliver some like a refresher session. So it's a half day for all of our managers to understand sort of warning signs, what to look out for, and how we can support our teams best with their mental well-being. So yeah, it's providing that sort of awareness, and yeah, just kind of drawing attention to it, really. We also do provide or give the opportunity for our employees to do a wellness action plan. So that's an initiative that Mind have. So essentially, yeah, it's a plan of essentially ask people what's the warning signs to look out for. So if they know, for example, that they tend to be a bit more quiet when they're potentially struggling with something, or if they're feeling stressed, they can tell us that, and then their manager knows to look out for that. And then part of the questions as well is, how do you want us to approach it? You know, would it be a quick email? Would it be 5 minutes in a meeting room? Would it be as part of another meeting to bring it up? So we do give people the opportunity to do that. They don't have to do it, but we do give that opportunity as well. So financial well-being is the next one. So our finance director runs sessions on, and well, actually our whole finance team runs sessions for us around things like budgeting, pensions, tax, that kind of stuff. So they're kind of like optional drop-in sessions, and they also provide support around that. So any questions that people have. We also partnered with a sort of financial advisory company. So they were here week before last, and they ran some sessions on mortgages, but specifically for commission earners. So very much tailored to our workforce, and that was again something that people had asked for. So we ran a couple. I think we did 3 sessions back to back on that, and then followed by an afternoon of there were one-to-ones available, so free financial advice for people with a financial advisor that had come in for us. Our corporate bank is, I think HSBC off the top of my head. They run financial wellbeing webinars throughout the month as well, so they're available for people to join, and they can also do free financial wellbeing checks as well through them. That's not something that's ever shared with us, so I wouldn't know how much it's uptaken. It's completely sort of confidential, but that is available to people as well. We also run at least annual pay reviews as well. Last year we did an extra one due to the cost of living increases, but we're very much, keeping an eye on our salaries and making sure that we're paying in line with the market. So that's obviously something that's really important in terms of financial wellbeing as well. And then social side of things. So we're a recruitment company, we're very social, but we like to make sure that we provide different types of social events, because not everybody wants to go and do the same thing. So on a company basis, we do like our quarterly social events. So our last one was the end of March, and we hired a local bar. But in that bar, they've also got like electric dartboards, shuffleboards, table tennis. So there was stuff for people to do if they didn't want to just drink and eat. There was some activities that people could get involved in, again, sort of tapping into that competitive side of things. And we did lots of team building activities as well. So one that we did earlier this year, so our sort of sustainability lead created a little initiative where people could build like insect hotels, I think we called them. So you had to go and collect stuff from around the lake, and then it was a competition, obviously, who could make the best insect hotel or birdhouse. I think you had an option of a few different things. So yeah, again, sort of tapping into the sustainability sort of vision that we have as well. But yeah, lots of bits and pieces like that, like pumpkin carving, all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, that's, I feel like I've spoken for ages without really taking a breath, but yeah, that's the kind of different things that we do.
Yeah, and this is what I wanted to lead to. You do so much, and it's nice. I didn't interrupt, didn't want to say anything. I just wanted to let you kind of showcase some of the cool things you can do. Hopefully that showcases to some people what you can do. Give some people some ideas.
Absolutely, and we other things as well. That was just kind of off the top of my head what I could think of.
Yeah, 100%. There are so much stuff. When we spoke, the things that really kind of grabbed my attention to what you guys are doing in regards to your wellbeing strategies. Obviously, you focus so much, you do so much in regards to the whole of the wellbeing piece. You do have bits on different bits, but social wellbeing is, for me, a really important part. And I think when you have a place where you go to work and you feel like like a connection with everybody, and like it's a really fun place to work, that's going to make such an impact on why you go to work and who you work for, and that's probably a big role to that 96% retention rate. But what you do for that, the fun stuff, the way you get people together is really impactful and powerful. So I think that's something where people can really learn from.
Mm-hmm. That was something that we struggled with through the lockdowns. Obviously, working from home, we immediately lost that social connection that we had, and it's something that's really important in this kind of environment. So we had to kind of think of ways that we could try and introduce it. So we also did the classic pub quiz on a Zoom call. So we did that, but something else that we did was we called them like coffee chats. I think is what we called them. But essentially, I used like a name generator to sort everybody into groups of 4. And then initially it was twice a week. So I've been that real sort of early stage of lockdown. As things started to ease, we did drop it down a bit. But so generate groups of 4 people who then would put half an hour in, and they would just join a Teams call and just talk about whatever. If they wanted to talk about work, they could, but if they wanted to talk about Tiger King or whatever we were watching at that time, then they could as well. So it's just an opportunity to people to collaborate with people outside of their immediate teams who they're probably talking to a lot. So that's just like one thing that we had to sort of quickly think of something that we could do. But that really highlighted for us the importance of that sort of social well-being when we couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, I think, I remember that one. And I think you're still doing that today, right? You're still doing a form of that today.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's so powerful. That belonging element of social well-being is important, and that's how you create that place. So congratulations, well done on all of that. I know we're at near the end of our session already. Time's flying when you're having fun. We're going to leave with my favorite question, which I always finish up on. Obviously, because you've got so much good advice, rather than just saying top 3 bits of advice, I actually want to make it a bit more focused. So, Emily Christmas, what is your top 3 bits of advice for businesses trying to improve their workplace?
So it's really basic. It's really straightforward. But first bit is put your people first, and like genuinely put your people first. Put them first in all the decisions that you're making. Secondly, would be to ask for feedback. We might think we know how our employees are feeling, but we might be wrong. So yeah, ask them for their feedback, and give them that place where they can do it honestly. Build that trust so that they feel they can give you honest feedback. And then once they give you that feedback, the final bit of advice is to listen to it, and make that person feel heard, valued, and take action on that feedback. I'm not saying necessarily put into place every single thing that's suggested, but if you're not going to, speak to that person and explain why that's not going to work, why that doesn't work for your business, and just as long as they feel like they've been listened to and heard, then it's kind of here or there whether you actually put something into practice. Yeah,
and be proactive on that as well, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, proactive approach to it.
Yeah, lovely. Great bits of advice. Filled out 2 sides of paper. I've really enjoyed this. I hope everybody else has. If you're still there, thank you for listening to us for 48 minutes nearly. The next one is with a lady called Becky, who runs Fertility Matters, talking around kind of the role of fertility in the workplace, which would be really impactful and powerful for people, because it's a really kind of sensitive subject. So make sure you join us for that one. But for the meanwhile, thank you, Emily, for talking to me and sharing all your insights into how to create a wicked business.
You're very welcome.
Look forward to seeing the kind of good things you carry on doing. If you do want to reach us, obviously follow Emily on LinkedIn, and follow me if you want to have a chat with me. Thanks, Andy, for joining us and being there and commenting all the way through. So yeah, thank you, and speak to you all later on. Bye-bye.
Bye.